1. Aperture. The opening in a camera lens that controls the amount of light entering. Adjust the aperture to f2.8 for a shallower depth of field. 2. Shutter speed. The length of time the camera shutter is open, allowing light to hit the sensor. Use a faster shutter speed to capture sharp images of moving subjects. 3. ISO. The sensitivity of the camera's sensor to light. Increase the ISO in low light conditions to get a brighter image. 4. Composition. The arrangement of elements in a photograph. Pay attention to composition to create more visually appealing photos. 5. Rule of thirds. A compositional rule that divides the image into thirds, both horizontally and vertically. Use the rule of thirds to place your subject off-center for a more dynamic composition. 6. Exposure, the amount of light that reaches the camera sensor. Proper exposure is key to capturing well-lit photos. 7. Focus, the point where light rays converge to create a sharp image. Make sure your subject is in focus before taking the shot. 8. Depth of field, the distance between the nearest and farthest objects in a photo that appear acceptably sharp. A wide aperture will give you a shallow depth of field. 9. White balance. Adjusting the colors in a photo to appear natural under different lighting conditions. Set the white balance to daylight when shooting outdoors. 10. Histogram, a graphical representation of the tonal values in a photo. Check the histogram to ensure your photo isn't overexposed or underexposed. 11. Lens, the part of the camera that focuses light onto the sensor. A prime lens with a fixed focal length often produces sharper images. 12. Bokeh, the aesthetic quality of the out-of-focus areas in a photo. A lens with a wide aperture can create beautiful bokeh in your photos. 13. Macro, close-up photography, usually of small subjects. Use a macro lens to capture the intricate details of flowers and insects. 14. Tripod, a three-legged stand used to stabilize the camera. A tripod is essential for long exposure shots to avoid camera shake. 15. Flash, a device used to produce a burst of artificial light. Use a flash to add light to your subject in low-light situations. Editing, the process of adjusting and enhancing photos using software. Editing can help improve the overall look of your photos. 17. RAW, a file format that captures all image data recorded by the sensor. Shooting in RAW gives you more flexibility in post-processing. 18. JPEG, a commonly used compressed image format. JPEG files are smaller and easier to share, but they offer less editing flexibility than RAW. 19. Burst mode, a camera setting that allows you to take multiple photos in quick succession. Use burst mode to capture fast-moving action shots. 20. Portrait, a photo of a person or group of people. For portraits, use a wide aperture to blur the background and focus on the subject. Example conversation. Today, we'll focus on understanding aperture and how it affects depth of field. Student, what aperture setting should I use for a portrait? For portraits, try using a wide aperture like f2.8 or f4 to create a shallow depth of field and make your subject stand out. How do I ensure my photo is properly exposed? Check your camera's histogram to make sure the exposure is balanced. You can also adjust the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture to control the exposure. Should I shoot in RAW or JPEG? If you plan to do extensive editing, shoot in RAW for more flexibility. For quick sharing with minimal editing, JPEG is fine.